Innovation is not just about technology. It is everywhere. It is about the mentality as well. And as a result, China is keeping up its efforts of reform and opening up. In fact, it's already becoming a great contributor to globalization. That is according to Victor Chu, who is one of the longest-serving trustee of the World Economic Forum. He's now the co-chair of the World Economic Forum International Business Council. Victor, welcome to World Insight with Tian Wei.
Thank you very much indeed.
Fortune Global Forum, this time in Guangzhou. But you were there 1999 in Shanghai, first time ever.
Yes.
Come out party for China at that time, 2 decades ago. So much has changed.
Absolutely. The Shanghai Forum had two historical strategic directions that was made. One was it was a coming up party for Pudong.
Yes.
And look at Pudong today. It is an amazing region of the world. The other one was, I remember China decided to embrace the internet world. And again, that was a very important strategic decision for China and for the world. And since that, China become more and more connected with globalization. And China today, I think we are a leader in globalization because other countries are having second thoughts on some of the pushback of globalization.
Right.
But from what we hear today here, we are still, speeding ahead and trying to strengthen domestic reform to catch up with globalization.
So actually, implementing innovation today is totally paving the way about the tasks tomorrow, as you have just suggested. But what kind of implementation, what kind of innovation we need to have now, so that 20 years from now, when we talk again, Victor, that we say, we did the right thing?
I shall look forward to talking again in 20 years, definitely. Definitely. No, I think 20 years of globalization has propelled China into a different league, certainly in many areas. For example, 20 years ago, we always say that China is in a different economic development cycle to some of the OECD countries. But today, in many daily aspects of life, for example, e-commerce, payment, IT, we are at the forefront of that development. So China, I think in the next 20 years, will need to cement its leadership in those areas. We need to embrace digitization. We need to embrace on many areas of what we call the fourth industrial revolution. Right. That is, the combination of AI with robotics revolution, with stem cell research, with the cloud computing, and also with developing the necessary policy governance in the social media. So all these, I think China will have a very important place in its development.
Yes, indeed. But, none of these areas is easy in a way when you think about the next stage of development.
That's why FDI is so important. Because so long as FDI is welcome, FDI will make sure that we are always in the forefront of reform, and we're always in the forefront of benchmarking against some of the better practices, and also make sure that domestically, our domestic economy, big as it is, will grow in more qualitative basis rather than just quantitative.
Yeah, but when you look at, Victor, some of these companies, Fortune 500, it used to be all multinationals. None of them were from China originally. But you look at the list now, a lot of them are in China and from China. And yet many of them are state-owned or in its shares very much state-sponsored. So what do you make of this interesting development and phenomenon?
I think two aspects, Wei. One is that it is something to celebrate about. 20 years ago, probably one or two companies in China would have been in the Fortune 500. Today, with 125.
Yes.
Right? And United States is the #1 and is just 10% more than China. Now, but having said that, the measurements of a company in the Fortune 500 basically is the size of its revenue,
Yes.
right? Now, we want to be, yes, we want to be big, but we also want to be good. And that is what you're talking about. That is a huge challenge. We need to be big, good, clean, efficient, and also be engaging in companies of the 21st century. Companies in the 21st century is fundamentally different from companies in the 19th and the 20th century.
How come? What different?
The social impact of a company in the 21st century is much louder than in the 20th century.
Right.
I think this is something which top leadership understands,
right.
But it's something that we need to filter down right to the to the ground floor, so that we can embrace the social inclusion, the sustainability, the social impact in earnest.
Yes, indeed. The 19th Party Congress, there are a lot of discussions about these policies.
Yes.
Having said that, though, there is a lot of competition.
Yeah.
The United States just have a tax cut, likely to pass. That's going to have a big impact on the investment environment for the United States vis-a-vis the other countries. You also see Prime Minister Trudeau from Canada was also present at the global forum this time. In fact, he wants to stay here for a couple of days just to lure more international business into his own country.
Yes.
China, of course, is a huge market. Everybody is embracing it. But the question is, what is going to be your competitive edge? Still relying on the size?
Well, part of it, the scale matters.
Of course.
But that's only one issue. I think competition for FDI is going to be fierce. Not only the United States, but many parts of Europe and Asia, they're also reducing their corporate taxes in order to attract foreign investments and also to attract and retain talent. I think the companies of the 21st century, the fierce competition is not only in monetary capital, financial capital, but also in human capital. Now that we need to make a huge investment based on the right policy and the right strategies going forward.
But Jack Ma the other day was arguing at the forum. He was suggesting, don't complain about doing business in China is difficult. If you cannot do business in China well, you cannot do it anywhere else well. He said, be patient, embrace the Chinese market, work for the customers, not just for the boss back in the headquarters. So these advices he gave to the multinational companies. Having said that, though, do we consider China still as exceptional? I mean, China probably is already becoming the standard in a way.
I think there is a body of opinion amongst multinationals that China today is slightly more difficult than, let's say, 20 years ago in terms of for multinationals. Right? I think part of it is true, and part of it is multinational had it too good in a way when China first started open door policy. In those days, multinational bring in capital and standards and techniques, right, that we normally second guess, right. Today, competition from domestic companies is very effective, and we sometimes compete head on with the best multinational. And so I think there's a bit of both. But I think we need to continue to improve in our investment environment, including the rule of law, the transparency of our tax and accounting system, enforcement consistency. Right. So positive angles of the anti-corruption policy will give multinational more comfort. Then doing business in China will be more ethical, cleaner, and free from bureaucratic abuse. Right.
Yeah. Victor, what a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much indeed.
All the best at the Fortune Global Forum this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.